Hi, Ray here. I'm building out some shelving in a small pantry, and I thought that as I did this project, I'd take you along with me. You could see how I did it. It's not a very difficult project, a little time consuming, but given the fact that the cabinet company wanted $2,000 to come in here and build out shelves in this cabinet, I thought I could do it myself and do it pretty well for a lot less money. And let's face it, it's just a pantry, so it's not like it has to be cabinet grade. So the first thing I had to do was decide how much space I wanted between the shelves. I decided that I would start at the bottom with 20 inches from the floor, and then each one of my shelves would be 12 inches. When I got to the top, it's more like about 15 inches, but there'll be room to put taller things up there. The dimensions of this cabinet, it's about 50 inches wide, and then it's about 36 inches deep. So it's not a huge cabinet. My first step was to, once I knew where I wanted to have the shelves, was to cleat out the shelves. This is 1x2. For the cleats, I just used pine. So it's 1x2 pine. Just find your studs, put in wood screws. As you're putting them up, drop a level on there and make sure all of them are level, and level all the way around, so when you join them together, they'll join together perfectly. For shelving, I used poplar. It's a little better than pine in terms of not wanting to warp quite as bad. It has a really pretty grain, but it's light enough that it's not going to make the inside of this cabinet look too dark. I used 1x12 poplar. 1x12 poplar is actually about 11¼ inches across, and but I'm going to face out the front here. So when I do that, that'll add a 3/4 inch here. So this will be a full 12-inch shelf. On the sides, I'm constrained because this shelf here has to stop before I put the door jamb in, which will come out to right here. So I used 1x8s. So when I face that out, it'll be a little over 8 inches wide, which will leave me, as you'll see, inside of where I need to be for the door jamb when the door gets put in. So here's what it looks like with the 1x12 shelves put in the closet. There are 5 shelves, and as I said, I really like this poplar. Using poplar was a suggestion by one of the carpenters here on this project, and it really is a pretty wood. So I'm glad that I did that. Each one of these boards is coated with 3 coats of polyurethane to make sure that they won't stain or scratch when they start putting things in the closet here. So next, we'll talk about how we're going to build out the sides here, and then we're going to talk about how we're going to add some structural strength down the center here, and also to face out the entire project so it looks a little bit more finished. Now the next step here is to measure and cut your side shelves. As you recall, I said these shelves here in the back were 1x12s, which are really 11¼ inches. And I needed to cut then the pieces that would fit in here. Now, one thing you want to be aware of as you're doing this is that it is highly unlikely that any one of these shelves are going to be the same. So, for example, this fits perfectly on this shelf. I wouldn't count on that exact same size necessarily fitting on this shelf. The other thing to be aware of is that typically as you come into your drywall here, when they mud this in, it's going to wind up being a little thicker in this corner than it is on the outside. So if you want it perfect, you might have to cut it at a very slight angle here. So even though I cut that at an angle, you can see if you look at it really closely, it's right against the wall here, right against the wall here. right against the wall here, right against the wall here, but the drywall slightly bows in the middle. So I guess what I'm saying is they're probably not going to be absolutely perfect. This side here fits pretty nicely down there where it ought to be. And I join those together. We'll make sure that those are perfectly flush right there. So we're going to do this shelf here next. Okay, here you can see some of the pieces that for the side shelves that I've put together. They have the facing on them, and I'm putting 3 coats of polyurethane on each piece, sanding between coats with a 320 grit sandpaper. And after that 3rd coat, these will be really shiny and nice. I'm using a semi-gloss water-based polyurethane. Putting in my little side cleats here like this, you can see I've done 2 things. One is that I've used a Craig jig to be able to come in from that side and screw into this back piece here. That's supported really well by this screw here, and it's around the corner. I'm not worried about that going anywhere, but I still want to make sure that it's supported. On this screw right here, I'm catching, I can't come out too far because I want to make sure that that is either flush or inside of the edge of the shelf that I'm going to put on top of it. So what I had to do was to come in here and angle this screw. Let me see if I can change hands here with my phone and show you this. I knew there was a stud right here. So I just angled my screw so it would come this way, and you see it coming out just the very bottom here. So it's angled this way to make sure that I catch that stud. I've screwed that little side cleat in there, and hopefully you can see by the level here. We're level because you want to make sure that everything stays level as you're working. So if I check this way, it's level. If I check this way, it's level. That way I know that all of my shelves are going to sit nice and level as I put them in. And again, in this side cleat here, little pocket screw using a Craig jig, and then coming into an angle to make sure that I caught the stud that was right here. This will be, the edge of this will be slightly shorter than my shelving board, which is what I want because I'm going to put a facing board across that shelving board anyway. Now we have all of our side shelves cut, and what we're going to want to do next is cut our facing boards to go across the front here. So I'm going to put my facing board across this side first, and then I'll come and put it on this. This will actually get a structural 1x2, which will come up all the way from the floor up to this top shelf for support to make sure that this doesn't sag. And it'll be a facing board as well, so that it'll all come together very nicely around the edges here and look much more substantial and a much more finished look. Now I want my facing boards to be as snug as possible, so I'm going to measure each one of those independently. And you can see that I'm like at 22 5/8 here. So I'm going to cut that on the fat side of 22 5/8 and then come back and fit it in. And I'm purposely going to cut it maybe a little bit long, and then I can always just trim it down just a tad to make sure I get an exact fit. So here I've faced out one of the shelves, and you can see the difference between the look of a faced out shelf and then one that has not yet been faced out. So you can see that this 1x2 piece here, it not only adds depth, it makes this a true 12-inch shelf, but it really gives it a much more finished look on the shelf, and it's just not that hard to do. Okay, I have the side shelves faced and put up on the right side. Now I'm going to go around and face each one of these back shelves. You can see the difference between where it's faced and where it's not. This here will be a support. It'll get brad nailed into each one of these. As I said, this is 50 inches across this way, so it's not going to need a whole lot of support, and poplar is pretty stout, but it'll give it enough support. And then after you've got everything, I taped everything in just for fit, and then checked to make sure I was plumb, and I am nice and plumb there. So we'll go ahead and we'll brad nail in all of these facings, and then we'll move along to the left side. So you can see the left side there doesn't have the shelves in yet. It's not faced up. The right side is faced up, and I'm going to face up the right of center, and then I'll bring it back and show you what that looks like. Okay, the right side of the pantry is all faced out. The center support is in. And you can see that the center support lines up with the front cleats, I guess you'd call them, or the front face, so that it all looks very nice. Okay, next we'll finish putting the next couple of coats of poly on these shelves. We'll put them up, and then last, I've got the pieces already polyurethaned, but then last I'll come back and I'll cut these to make sure that they fit perfectly between this shelf and the center post. But everything's coming along very nicely. This poplar, as I've said before, is just a very attractive wood. It's got such a nice grain. Each one of the side shelves are held to the back shelf with pocket screws. You can see I put one in there already. I've got one to put in there. But what I'm going to do before that is move my clamp as far back as I can, making sure I'm bridging that, just to try to make sure that this, and therefore the top, are smooth and joined together in the correct place. Well, there it is. Finished project. 5 shelves, all 12-inch shelves, 20 inches at the bottom, and 13 inches at the top. Good support post down the middle. It's all faced out. It's a pretty wood. I think I'm happy with it. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. And if so, please like and subscribe. I do videos like this on occasion, videos about camping, videos about whatever. Just whatever I'm doing. Thanks for watching.